My wife's brother slapped my 5-year-old, in front of everyone. And the worst part? My wife smiled. What they didn't know was my mic was live, and the whole neighborhood heard everything. You ever feel that sound before you hear it? That sharp crack across your soul like something inside you just split? That was the sound I heard before I even registered what had happened. It wasn't the slap that got me. Not at first. It was the silence right after. We were in my living room, family barbecue, fake smiles, overcooked ribs, kids running around while adults nursed beers and grudges. I was standing by the grill flipping a rack of ribs when I heard it. A sudden smack like flesh on flesh. And then my son Ethan just froze. He was 5, barely up to my waist. And he was standing there, red cheek, lip quivering. And standing in front of him, hands still raised, was Matt, my wife's brother. Like father, like son. Both are useless. Matt bellowed, laughing like he told the funniest damn joke on earth. I didn't move. Not yet. I was still processing. I looked around. My wife, Chelsea, sipped her sangria without blinking. Her mother leaned back in her chair, smirking behind her sunglasses. And her father, Rick, chuckled under his breath and added, well, he needed to learn some shame. Ethan's eyes locked with mine. And that's when I moved. I dropped the tongs, walked over in dead silence, and that's when everything shifted. Because what nobody noticed, what Matt hadn't noticed, was that I had been testing a new wireless speaker system for the backyard. I'd hooked the mic to my shirt earlier when setting it up. I never turned it off. Everything Matt said had just blasted through the backyard surround sound. The whole block heard. Neighbors peered over fences. The other kids stopped running. Even the birds went quiet. And then I did what any father would do. I turned to Matt. You have 3 seconds, I said, voice steady. Low, dangerous. 3 seconds to apologize before I make you regret ever raising that hand. Chelsea finally stood. Oh, come on, Chris. She scoffed. He was just joking. Your son's always whining. Maybe if you weren't such a finish that sentence, I warned. She didn't. Matt didn't apologize. So, I grabbed him by the collar and dragged him across the lawn like a sack of garbage. Tossed him through the gate, locked it, and told him if he ever came near my son again, I pressed charges. Then I turned to Rick. You want to laugh? I asked him. He just raised an eyebrow. So I threw him out too. But Chelsea, she didn't move. Didn't say sorry. Didn't even look at Ethan. Instead, she turned to me and hissed under her breath. You've always been so dramatic. No wonder Matt said what he said. That was the moment. The moment I knew she wasn't just defending them, she was one of them. And that's when I decided to pull the thread because something in her tone wasn't just cold. It was indifferent. Like she was already checked out. Like Ethan and I were nothing more than background noise. So I started watching her every day after that. Her late-night gym runs. Her sudden work meetings. Her always locked phone. Her quick exits when I walked into her room. The slap had cracked something open. And I wasn't about to let it close again. Not until I knew the truth. Not until I made them all pay. The next 2 weeks were hell in slow motion. Chelsea went back to pretending everything was fine. Like nothing happened. She cooked dinner with that same fake smile, asked Ethan about school like she hadn't watched him get humiliated, and said nothing. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I played along, quiet, controlled. But inside I was boiling. I knew what I needed. Proof. And it didn't take long to find the first crack. It started with her phone. She used to leave it face up, unlocked, careless. Now it never left her side. Bathroom. Took it with her. Shower on the sink. Screen down. And her password changed. I noticed because I tried to check it one night when she was asleep for wrong tries and I gave up barely. The next clue, her gym bag. She never worked out before. Then suddenly she's addicted. Leaves at 8 p.m. back by 10 o'clock. Comes home looking exhausted but somehow still glowing. I opened the bag when she was at work. No gym shoes, no towel, just a small pouch of makeup, a bottle of cheap perfume and a fresh change of underwear. She wasn't working out. She was dressing up. The final nail came from Ethan. He's 5 but kids know when something's off. He crawled into bed with me one night while she was at the gym and said, Mommy doesn't like you anymore. I froze. Why would you say that, buddy? He looked at me with those big, honest eyes. Because she tells Uncle Matt that you're boring and slow and not a real man. I felt something in my chest break. A quiet kind of pain. Not anger, just something deeper, sadder. She talked to Matt about me behind my back after what he did. After I defended our son and Ethan heard it, I waited until she left the next night and followed her. I took Ethan to my sister's place, said I needed the night to myself, drove a couple of blocks behind Chelsea's car, lights off. She wasn't heading to the gym. She drove past it, made a few turns through a quiet neighborhood, and pulled into a small cul-de-sac. She didn't even park far from the house. Just got out, checked her makeup in the mirror, and walked up to the door like she belonged there. The man who answered, he was younger. Muscles, tattoos, no shirt. Chelsea leaned in, whispered something, and he laughed. Then she kissed him. Not a nervous kiss. Not a one-time mistake kiss. This has been going on kiss. I didn't rage. I didn't scream. I just sat there in the dark, gripping the steering wheel, watching my wife disappear into another man's house like our marriage didn't even exist. And I stayed parked across the street until the bedroom light on the second floor turned off. She didn't come out for 3 hours. I drove home with my window down, breathing in the cold night air, trying to make it sting less, but it didn't. Just made it real. The next morning she walked in like nothing happened, hair still damp from the shower, humming some pop song under her breath. She kissed Ethan on the forehead and poured herself coffee like she hadn't just spent the night with someone else. I sat at the kitchen table staring at her. She looked up, finally catching my eyes. "What?" she said, her voice flat, annoyed already. "Did you burn the toast again?" I didn't answer. I just watched her, memorizing every curve of the lie she called a face. She rolled her eyes. "God, Chris, you always do this. Look at me like you're some victim. You're exhausting. Still nothing from me." She sipped her coffee, then added, "You know, you've become dull. You used to have fire. I don't know what happened to you." I leaned forward slowly. "Where were you last night?" She blinked, took a pause, then gave me a fake, confused smile. "I told you, Jim, try again." She set the mug down harder than she meant to. "Don't start this." I leaned in closer, my voice ice. "I followed you." The mask dropped. Her eyes went wide for just a second, then narrowed. "So now you're spying on me. That's real mature. 3 hours in that guy's house. Didn't even bother to park far away." She didn't flinch. Didn't apologize. She laughed. "Oh well, so you actually sat outside like a loser all night? Jesus, Chris, you cheated on me?" She tilted her head. "Yeah. And what are you going to do about it?" "Cry. You've been emotionally gone for years." I just pulled the plug. I stood up. She kept talking. "You're not a man, Chris. You're a dad and a paycheck. That's it. And you know what? I don't even feel bad." She walked out of the kitchen and muttered, "Maybe if you were half as exciting as he is, I wouldn't have to find real satisfaction somewhere else." And that was it. No remorse, no shame. She stood there, daring me to scream, to break down, to punch a wall. But I didn't. I walked past her, grabbed my jacket, and left. I drove without a direction, hands trembling on the wheel. Not from rage, but from the sheer weight of it all. The years, the compromise, the trying, the fatherhood, the love I thought I had. She stomped on it like it never mattered. I ended up at my sister's house, sat on the porch in silence until she opened the door and just hugged me. I finally said the words I had been afraid of for months. "She's been cheating." My sister didn't say I'm sorry. She didn't need to. Her silence said more than any words could. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel weak. I felt done. I stayed at my sister's place for a few nights. Ethan was still with her. I couldn't bring him back to that house. Not after what he saw. Not after what I saw. Chelsea sent a few texts. Nothing heartfelt. Just cold transactional updates. "He has school tomorrow. Are you bringing him back? You left her laptop charger. We need to talk about bills." Not once did she ask how Ethan was doing. Not once did she say his name. That silence spoke louder than all her lies combined. But the real blow came from Ethan himself. One night, I was tucking him in on the pull-out couch and he whispered, "I don't want to go back to Mommy's house." I blinked. "Why not, buddy?" She lets the loud man come over. He yells, "He smells like smoke." I don't like him. My blood ran cold. The guy she was sneaking around with, she was letting him near my son. While I was gone, she brought him into our home. That was the final line crossed. I didn't say anything to Ethan. Just kissed his forehead and stayed up all night writing down everything. A timeline, screenshots of her texts, photos from the night I followed her, recordings from the smart camera in the living room. Turns out she forgot it was linked to my email. She walked in with him twice, both times dragging Ethan along like luggage. The next morning I made the call. My lawyer picked up on the second ring. I laid it all out. He didn't even pause. We filed for full custody. No negotiations. I filed that afternoon. Chelsea didn't even bother pretending to be shocked. She came storming into my sister's driveway that evening, red-faced and furious. "You're seriously pulling this?" She spat, arms flailing. "You're going to take my son from me because I moved on." Moved on. I stepped between her and the front door. "You humiliated him. You let your brother slap him, then laughed it off. You didn't defend him. You didn't comfort him. Then you let some tattooed prick scream around him like this was a frat house. He's fine, she snapped. You're just jealous. You've always been threatened by any man who didn't wear khakis and beg for approval. This isn't about me. She laughed bitterly. It always is with you, Chris. Your pride, your feelings. What about mine? I stared at her. Really looked. This wasn't the woman I married. This was someone else. Cold, sharp, selfish to the core. I opened the front door slowly. Leave, Chelsea. The court will be in touch. And if you come near Ethan without permission, you'll regret it. She didn't move, but something in her face changed. A twitch, a flinch, a realization. She wasn't in control anymore. I closed the door and locked it. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel broken. I felt ready. The court date came faster than I expected. Or maybe I was just finally breathing again and time stopped dragging. I walked into that courtroom with a folder so thick it could have passed for a novel. Every chapter a betrayal, every page a receipt. Chelsea sat across from me in a navy blue dress, fake pearls, and that same smug face she wore the night her brother slapped her son. She glanced at me like she was still in control, like this was all beneath her, like I was wasting her time. Her lawyer opened with some garbage about emotional distance and communication breakdown, and tried painting me as cold, unresponsive, neglectful. Chelsea even faked a few tears, but then my lawyer stood up and we played the recording. Matt's voice boomed through the speakers. Like father, like son, both are useless. Then Rick smirked. Well, he needed to learn some shame. And finally, Chelsea's soft voice on the video from the home cam, saying, you know what? I hope Chris finds out. He needs to know what it feels like to be replaced. The courtroom was silent. The judge stared at her like she'd spat on the Constitution. Chelsea wouldn't look at me after that. My lawyer continued, this isn't about a broken marriage. This is about a broken environment for a child. A child who was slapped in front of his family, insulted by adults, and dragged through a revolving door of strangers while his mother abandoned her responsibilities. I didn't gloat. I didn't smile. I just watched as every lie she built caved in under the weight of the truth. When it was over, the judge didn't even hesitate. Temporary full custody, supervised visitation for Chelsea, reevaluation in 6 months. She stood up, stormed out, heels stabbing the floor like a warning. I stayed seated, let her feel the silence she left behind. That night, back at my sister's, Ethan asked, can I stay here forever? I knelt beside him. We're going to have our own place soon, buddy. Just you and me. He smiled and wrapped his arms around my neck. I like that. Later, while he slept, I stared at the ceiling for hours. Not sad, not even angry anymore, just free. The next day, I got the call from Chelsea's HR department. They needed me to verify her employment history for some internal audit. That's when I knew someone had forwarded the audio recording. I didn't even ask who. Sometimes justice doesn't need a courtroom. Sometimes it just needs a live mic. A week later, the fallout began. Chelsea's job didn't just place her on leave, they fired her. Apparently, that recording spread like wildfire in her office. Someone leaked it to corporate, and once the executives heard her defending a grown man hitting a child while mocking her own husband, it was over. She called me that night. Not to apologize, not even to beg, just to scream. You ruined me, she yelled into the phone. Do you have any idea what you've done? I sat in silence, holding the phone away from my ear, letting her rage fill the void she created. She kept going, her voice cracking now. They're saying I'm a liability, that I'm unfit for client work. You think this is over? You think you won? You're pathetic, Chris. Always have been. You just got lucky. Then the line went dead. I stared at the screen for a moment. No missed calls, no follow-up message, just the silence she left when she walked out of our marriage long before that slap ever happened. I didn't sleep that night. Not out of stress, but out of reflection. I thought back to the early years. The woman I married wasn't this cruel, was she? Or had I been blind to it all along? Maybe I wanted to believe in her so badly, I ignored every red flag, every selfish move, every dig disguised as a joke. But now the mask was off. She wasn't just cold. She was dangerous. I made it my mission to protect Ethan from that version of her at all costs. The next day, I met with my lawyer to tighten things up, document everything, make sure her visitation terms stayed strict, supervised, controlled. The last thing I wanted was Ethan around her in this state. Later that afternoon, Chelsea tried showing up at my sister's place. She banged on the door like a lunatic until the neighbors came outside. My sister recorded the whole thing. You think you can hide my son from me? She screamed. You think some court order is going to keep me away? Then she saw the camera and just like that she flipped. Crocodile tears, shaky breath. A week I just missed my baby. Why are you doing this to me? The cops arrived 5 minutes later. She was told to leave. If she came back, she'd be charged with violating the court order. I watched from the upstairs window. Ethan was building Lego castles on the floor. Unbothered, safe. That night, I realized something. I didn't hate her. She wanted me to. She needed me to, because if I hated her, then this could still be about emotions, about chaos. But I didn't hate her. I pitied her, because now finally, I was calm, and that terrified her more than any screaming match ever could. A month passed. The silence between us became permanent. No calls, no texts, no unexpected knocks on the door, just the occasional notification from my lawyer. Chelsea filing appeals, requesting unsupervised visits, trying to claw back some illusion of control. Each time the court shut her down. I found a new place, just a small 2-bedroom apartment on the edge of town, but it was ours. Ethan picked out his own bed sheets, Spider-Man of course, and we spent weekends building forts out of couch cushions and eating cereal for dinner without anyone nagging about crumbs on the floor. The more time passed, the more I noticed Ethan smiling again. Real smiles, the kind that didn't have to tiptoe around tension. He stopped flinching at loud noises. Stopped asking when mommy was coming back. One day, out of the blue, he looked up at me and said, "I like our new home better." I almost cried. Not because of what we lost, but because of what we gained. Freedom. One night, I found an old box in the closet. Inside were wedding photos, anniversary cards, even that dried-up cord she wore to our engagement dinner. I stared at them for a while. Those glossy, smiling lies, and felt nothing. Not hate, not pain, just clarity. I threw the box out. No ceremony, no bonfire, just placed it in the dumpster and walked away, because I didn't need reminders of a woman who made a sport of disrespecting me, who stood by as her family slapped our child and laughed, who threw away a family for the thrill of being desired by a stranger. And as for her, well, word got around. She tried getting a new job, corporate firm. Didn't last. HR flagged her name. Tried pivoting into wellness coaching on Instagram. That flopped too. Apparently, people don't take guidance from someone whose reputation is Googleable in 2 clicks. She messaged me once more. A voice note. She sounded tired. Hollow, like the rage finally burned out and left her with smoke and regret. "I made mistakes," she said, pausing. "But you didn't have to destroy me. You didn't have to let them hear the recording. You didn't have to turn Ethan against me." I didn't respond. Because the truth is, I didn't destroy her. She destroyed herself. I just stopped covering for it. And as for Ethan, I didn't turn him against her. He just opened his eyes. In the end, this wasn't a story about betrayal. It was a story about awakening, about a man who finally saw the truth, stood up for his son, and walked away from the wreckage with his head high and his soul intact. So, if you're reading this and you're still stuck in that place where love feels like punishment, where respect is optional, where your silence is taken as permission, know this. You are not weak for staying, but you become strong the moment you choose to leave. Let them call you dramatic. Let them mock your voice. Let them underestimate your silence. Because when the truth finally comes through the mic, it echoes louder than all their lies combined.